Hey everybody, I switched editing packages to Vinci Resolve. Let's take a look. I really love my morning coffee. It's a ritual I never miss. It helps me frame my work. Fortunately, there are 2 Starbucks nearby, and so I'm able to choose one of them. Over the weekend, I went to one to grab my venti Pike Place and sit down to read books for this week's video. And I couldn't help but overhear a conversation at the next table. An eager salesperson was deep into a pitch, listing feature after feature. Our platform uses Kubernetes architecture for 99.99% uptime and has a 256-bit AES encryption. The small business owner across from him just looked exhausted. Finally, he held up a hand and said, "Look, I just need to make sure my team doesn't keep sending the wrong invoices to the wrong clients. That's it." The salesperson paused, completely stumped for a moment, and then just launched right back into another feature. And I was fascinated, not at the mistake, but at the puzzle. The gap between the solution being sold and the simple, painful problem the customer actually had was colossal. It's a disconnect that happens every single day. And it's what we're going to solve today. So, what if I told you that your biggest competitor isn't the company on your battle card? It's not the rival whose every move you track. For most of you, your most dangerous and persistent competitor is a messy Excel spreadsheet, a chaotic system of sticky notes, or just the simple innovation-killing phrase, we'll deal with it later. This brings us to a fascinating puzzle. Why do customers who have a clear problem, a problem your product was perfectly designed to solve, so often choose to do nothing? Why do they cling to their clunky, inefficient workarounds instead of buying our elegant, superior solutions? It's like being a game designer, offering a player an epic, legendary sword, meticulously balanced and crafted for maximum damage, but they insist on trying to fight a final boss with the wooden training sword they got in the tutorial. The problem isn't the quality of your weapon. The problem is you haven't understood the quest they're actually on. Today, we're going to unpack a revolutionary idea that explains this paradox perfectly. It's called jobs to be done, and it's the secret behind how one of the world's most famous fast food companies figured out the real reason people were buying their milkshakes. And we'll see how a B2B company struggling with flat growth used this very same idea to stop losing deals to no decision and completely redefine their place in the market. Welcome to Norton Design Lab. I'm Brad Norton. The Norton Design Lab videos reflect my personal views, not those of my current or former employers. The case study is a composite of multiple companies and examples. Individual results may vary. Let's dive in. With over 20 years in designing incentive strategies and go-to-market plans that boost salesforce effectiveness, I'm here to investigate how companies transform their sales outcomes. Today, we're diving deep into our customer-centric go-to-market pillar with a concept that is, frankly, a game changer: the jobs-to-be-done revolution. You might be thinking this is just another discussion about listening to your customer, but we're going to dive deeper. We're going to deconstruct the very idea of why a customer makes a choice. We'll explore the foundational principles from some groundbreaking books and see how it played out in a real-world composite case study, and give you a new lens to see your entire market through. By the end of this, you won't just sell better, you'll see better. So let's dig into that disconnect I saw at the coffee shop. Why is the traditional playbook of feature benefit selling losing its punch? It's because we live in an age of infinite information. Your product's impressive features list is, to the overwhelmed customer, just more noise in an already deafening roar. They can pull up a dozen alternatives with a similar checklist of functions in 10 seconds it takes you to catch your breath. The intense competition commoditizes your brilliant solution before you even get a chance to build value. Your pitch becomes just one more voice in the chorus, not a solo. This reveals the truth. The real battle isn't feature for feature against the competitor on your slide deck. The real battle is against the incredibly powerful forces of inertia and anxiety. A customer's current imperfect system, that chaotic Excel file, or that manual workflow, or even those sticky notes on their monitor, has one massive unbeatable advantage. It's familiar. The perceived pain and risk of switching to your new, unknown solution often feels far greater than the dull, chronic pain of just staying put. Your sales pitch isn't fighting another product, it's fighting fundamental human psychology. This isn't just a simple sales problem. It's a fundamental flaw in how many companies are designed to see the world. Organizations spend millions on R&D to build better mousetraps and billions on marketing to shout about how great their new trap is. But they never stop to ask the customer if they even perceived themselves as having a mouse problem. Or maybe their mouse problem is actually that the family cat is bored and needs a new toy. If you don't understand the real context, you're just selling to yourself. This is where the jobs to be done framework comes in. It provides the diagnostic tools to understand the causal mechanisms for a purchase. It moves us from simple correlation, people like this tend to buy products like this, to deep causation. In this specific circumstance, what progress is this person truly trying to make? And that, as we'll see, changes absolutely everything. So, how does this play out in the real world? Let me walk you through a composite case study of a company we'll call Innovate CRM. This case study is a composite based on publicly available information from many companies designed for learning purposes. Now, Innovate CRM was a classic B2B SaaS success story, a rapidly scaling tech firm. They were recognized by industry analysts for having one of the most powerful feature-rich customer relationship management platforms on the market. They had a sales force of over 500 sales reps, a top-tier marketing budget, and a product that on paper should have been dominating their segment. But they had a huge, frustrating problem. The growth had stalled. They were consistently hitting their lead generation targets, but their conversion rates were plummeting. In their deal postmortems, the number one reason for loss wasn't a competitor. It was no decision. Customers would go through multiple demos, say all the right things, and then just ghost them. The stakes were getting incredibly high. The board was questioning the massive R&D spend on features that didn't seem to move the needle. The sales team's morale was tanking because they felt they were shouting into the void, unable to connect the value of their powerful tool to the day-to-day reality of their customers. Innovate CRM was facing a crisis of relevance, and they were losing to the most insidious competitor of all, apathy. To understand how Innovate CRM broke out of this spiral, we first need to understand the powerful mental model they adopted. And it comes from the legendary Clayton Christensen and his book, Competing Against Luck, the story of innovation and customer choice. To really dive deep on this, I highly recommend ordering a copy of Competing Against Luck. I've dropped a link in the description for you. Just as a heads up, as an Amazon associate, I may earn from your qualifying purchases if you use the link, which helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Christensen's groundbreaking idea is this. Customers don't buy products, they hire them to do a job. Now, this isn't a job description like data entry. The job is progress that a person is trying to make in a specific circumstance. Now, think of your own life. You don't just buy a cup of coffee on Monday morning. You might hire it to help you transition from groggy person at home and cranky to focused professional at work. On Saturday afternoon, you might hire a coffee shop to create a social space to catch up with a friend. Same product, completely different jobs. The most famous story to illustrate this is the milkshake story. A fast food chain wanted to improve its milkshake sales. They did the usual market research, asking customers if they wanted them thicker, chocolatier, cheaper, or chunkier. They got conflicting feedback, made changes based on it, and nothing happened to sales. Christensen's team came in and asked a different question. What job did you hire that milkshake to do? I know it sounds weird, but by observing, interviewing, and looking at what customers were doing, They discovered that nearly half of all milkshakes were sold before 9 a.m. to commuters, almost always alone. The job they were hiring the milkshake for wasn't to be a dessert or satisfy my hunger. The job was, I have a long, boring commute, and I need something to keep me engaged. It needs to be easy to consume, with one hand while I drive, and it needs to be substantial enough to stave off my hunger until my lunch break. Once they defined the job, now the real competitor became crystal clear. It wasn't the other fast food milkshakes. No, the milkshake was competing against bananas, which were gone too quickly, donuts, which were messy with crumbs, and bagels, which were a hassle to top with cream cheese while driving. The milkshake, it turned out, did the job better than any of them. This is the core insight. The job, not the customer or the product, is the fundamental unit of analysis. Innovate CRM's mistake was thinking their competition was other CRMs. They needed to find out what job their customers were hiring the CRM for. Or, more importantly, what they were hiring instead. So if Christensen gives us the what, the job to be done, then Bob Moesta, a key architect of the theory, gives us the why. He gives us the physics of the decision. In his fantastic book, Demand-Side Sales 101, Stop Selling and Help Your Customers Make Progress, which I'll also put a link below, he lays out the 4 forces that control any change in behavior. For a customer to make a change, 2 forces have to push them forward. First, there's the push of the situation. The current reality has to be painful enough to warrant action. This is the struggling moment. I can't take one more meeting where we argue about which numbers are correct. Second, you have the pull of the new solution. The vision of the future state has to be compelling and magnetic. This is your solution's promise, the dream of a single dashboard where everyone sees the same reality in real time. But for a sale to happen, the push and the pull must overcome 2 powerful restraining forces. First, the anxiety of the new. This is a fear of the unknown. What if the team hates it and doesn't adopt it? What if the data migration is a disaster? What if I stake my reputation and my career on this and it fails? Second, you have the powerful habit of the present. This is the magnetic pull of the status quo. Our current spreadsheet is a mess, but it's our mess. We know its quirks. It's predictable. Think of it like deciding to switch your main character in a massive online game like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV. The push is that your current class has just got nerfed and isn't fun anymore. And the pull is this amazing new class that looks powerful and exciting, but then the anxiety kicks in. I'll have to learn all new abilities? What if I'm bad at it? What if my guild needs my old role? And the habit of your current character, all of its familiar gear and muscle memory, holds you back. For a player to switch, the push and the pull have to be overwhelming. The same's true for your customer. A salesperson's job is not to amplify the pull, just talking about features. It's to understand all 4 forces at work. They need to dig into the push, magnify the pull, by connecting it to the customer's desired progress. Just as importantly, they must actively diffuse the anxiety and help the customer overcome the habit of their current state. So, we have Christensen's job and Moesta's forces. This gives us a powerful lens for sales. But how does this revolutionize our go-to-market strategy, especially our marketing? This is where the brilliant Seth Godin comes in. His book, This is Marketing. You can't be seen until you learn to see, argues that the age of mass marketing is over, and it connects perfectly with the jobs to be done. Godin's core idea is to stop trying to appeal to everyone. Instead, you should find the smallest viable audience you can serve and obsess over their needs. The goal is to create something so perfect for them, a story and a solution that resonates so deeply that they can't help but talk about it. This is where the light bulb goes off. How do you define that smallest viable audience? You define it by the job they need to get done. The market isn't a broad demographic like mid-sized manufacturing companies. Your smallest viable audience is plant managers and mid-sized manufacturing companies who are struggling to get their real-time data from their aging machinery to prevent costly downtime. That is a specific job for a specific audience. It's a worldview, a struggle, and a desire for progress all rolled into one. When you know the job, your marketing transforms. You stop shouting about features. Our software has 12 reporting dashboards. Instead, you start whispering a story that resonates deeply with that specific audience. Never walk into a morning production meeting with yesterday's data again. The goal is for that one person, that plant manager, to see your message and have a visceral reaction. That's for me. They understand my specific struggle. So let's put it all together. Christensen gives us a unit of analysis, the job. Moesta gives us the physics for the choice, the 4 forces. And Godin gives us the strategy. Use the job to define your smallest viable audience and create marketing that resonates so deeply it can't be ignored. This is the intellectual toolkit Innovate CRM used to start their turnaround. So, armed with these new frameworks, the team at Innovate CRM did something they felt was radical. They stopped A/B testing their demo scripts, and instead, they launched into a series of jobs-to-be-done interviews. They didn't just talk to their existing happy customers, they obsessively hunted down people who had taken a demo and then gone dark. The no-decision crowd. The entire nature of their conversation shifted. It was a night and day difference. The old way, the feature-benefit approach, sounded like this. What are the top 5 features you look for in a CRM? How many contacts do you need to manage? Who are your competitors you're evaluating? The new way, the jobs-to-be-done interview, sounded like this. Take me back to the moment you first realized your current system wasn't working. What was happening in the business that day? What was the struggling moment? What did you try before looking for a tool like ours? When you imagine having the problem solved, what does that unlock for you and your team? What are you anxious might happen if you bring in a new system? See the difference? This isn't a discovery call. It's practically a therapy session for their business process. They stopped acting like salespeople and started acting like design researchers or investigative journalists. Their goal wasn't to qualify a lead, it was to uncover the story of a struggle. After a few dozen of these interviews, the patterns that emerged were stunning. The job their best customers were hiring Innovate CRM for was not to manage customer relationships. The real underlying job was to create a single source of truth so that our client-facing teams stop looking disorganized and amateurish during critical client meetings. Suddenly, the 4 forces snapped into focus. The push was the visceral embarrassment a team leader felt when their sales and service departments gave a client conflicting information. The pull was the vision of a seamless professional client experience that built trust. The anxiety was the paralyzing fear of a painful data migration and the nightmare of forcing their busy teams to learn a complex new tool. And the habit was the devil they knew. A shared Dropbox folder full of messy, out-of-date spreadsheets and Word docs. This insight was pure gold for their marketing team. They stopped targeting broad titles like VP of Sales. Their new smallest viable audience was leaders at professional service firms who are terrified of losing their biggest client due to an unforced internal error. They created a whole new campaign around the theme, Present a United Front. It wasn't about features. It was about solving the core emotional high-stakes job. By redesigning their entire go-to-market strategy around the customer's true job to be done, Innovate CRM's transformation was profound. The results weren't just incremental, they were game-changing, showing up in both their metrics and their morale. Let's start with the hard numbers. Their sales cycle for this newly defined segment shortened by over 30%. Why? Because conversations were no longer about convincing, but about confirming that they understood the customer's struggle. Their win rate against no decision more than doubled in the first 6 months. And, interestingly, their average deal size went up 15%. This happened because they could now tie the solution to mitigating a much more expensive and strategic problem, the risk of losing a major client, than just contact management. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The qualitative impact was huge. Sales team morale soared. Reps felt like trusted consultants, not feature pitching robots. They were having more meaningful, less adversarial conversations. The most significant impact, however, was strategic. The insights from the jobs to be done interviews became the single most valuable input for their product roadmap. They stopped building features that sounded cool and started creating solutions that solved real-world struggles. They didn't just find a better way to sell. They essentially pivoted from being just another CRM in a crowded market to becoming a dominant player in the client experience platform niche they had uncovered and defined themselves. They didn't just find a better way to sell, they found a better business to be in. Now, you might be watching this and thinking, this is great for a big SaaS company, but how does this apply to me? The beauty of this framework is its universality. For this to work, a few things are non-negotiable. First, genuine curiosity. You have to care more about the customer story than you do about your own pitch. If you're not truly fascinated by their struggle, you won't uncover the real job. Second, you need leadership buy-in. You need the organizational patience to have conversations that don't have a clear sales outcome right away. This is an investment in insight, not a direct lead gen tactic, and leaders need to provide that air cover. How you start depends on your context. If you're a startup, you have a massive advantage. You're nimble. You can do 5 of these interviews this week and pivot your entire pitch by Monday. If you're in a large enterprise, start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. Pick one product line or one customer segment and run a pilot. Generate a win and use that success story to build momentum internally. And if you sell a service, not a product, this is even more powerful because your solution is infinitely more flexible and can be tailored directly to the job you uncover. But be warned, there's a huge trap here. It's called hearing what you want to hear. You will be tempted to lead the witness, to subconsciously map their answers onto your existing features. You must resist this. A true jobs to be done interview is 90% listening. The other big pitfall is treating this as a one-time project. The market, your customers, and their struggles are constantly evolving. This isn't a project. It's a new capability your organization needs to build, the capability of continuous empathic listening. So today, we saw how the powerful jobs to be done framework completely reframes how we see our customers. We saw how Christensen's hiring analogy, Moesta's 4 forces, and Godin's smallest viable audience helped our case study company break free from the trap of feature selling and achieve incredible results by focusing on the customer's true progress. To help you get started, I've consolidated the key questions and principles from today's discussion into a simple one-page worksheet. The call to action is to use our Jobs to be Done interview guide to start having more insightful customer conversations. But the real call to action is this. Pick one customer conversation you have this week, and instead of thinking about what you sold, ask yourself, what job was that person trying to get done? That simple shift in perspective is the first step. If you enjoyed today's topic and you're passionate about building smarter, more effective sales organizations, I encourage you to subscribe for more insights and click that bell so you don't miss our next video. Please share this video with a colleague who's tired of losing deals to no decision. And finally, what's the biggest job your customers are trying to hire your product for? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your insights. To make this real, here are 3 things you can do first thing Monday morning to start applying these ideas. First, go on your own company's website. Find the product page. Look at the list of features. For one of them, ask, "So that," out loud. When you get an answer, ask it again. Do it 5 times. See how far you get from the feature and how close you get to a real human motivation. Second, think of the last deal you lost to no decision. Get out a piece of paper and draw 4 quadrants in Moesta's 4 forces. Try to fill it out from the customer's perspective. What was pushing them away from their current situation? What anxieties were holding them back? Be honest. This will likely tell you more than your CRM's closed lost reason. Third, in your next team meeting, ask this one question. What are our customers using right now if they're not using a product like ours? Don't just list competitors. Push for the real workarounds, the spreadsheets, the weekly email chains, the manual processes. That's your real battlefield. Try these out and then come back and post your results of your biggest learning in the comments below. I'll be looking out for them. And I'll create a follow-up video addressing the most insightful experiences or common questions. Thanks so much for watching. Keep innovating, stay curious, and keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one. My God, when I typed this out, it read so well. I can't even say the words. Oh, let's try it again. Pull up. Gotta do this all over again. My goodness, I don't even know how to. I can't even speak today.